Hello, hello, hello. Welcome. So I was just trying to get through the WhatsApp messages. I wrote to check them before doing the reading, but I couldn't find any notes. So let's pull this up. Let's write this actually. Okay. I've been feeling more plasticity lately. We'll go back and forth. All right. So. This microphone ruining my shirts. It's a big question. All right. What do we have here? So we got the Sag rising. Tell me the degrees. 26 looks like. Okay. Cat Moon conjunct Uranus. North Node 0 Pisces. Interesting. Super small fifth and 11th house, but Gemini. Oh, ooh. So we got a potential genius here. And actually, I need to hear back. I'm doing a study. So he has a Sun Mercury Cazimi. I don't know who's watching this, if it's you, Annie, or both of you, or I don't know the situation. But okay, so I have this. Um, all eight people that I've ever met who had this have either been genius, like in tests and whatnot, IQ tests, genius IQ, or if they didn't have that tested, very least people who have super active minds and are very intelligent, right? So to have that in Mercury with Mercury retrograde um, in Gemini is it's just like you know, that makes it's basically when Mercury and the sun are conjunct, usually what happens is that the sun burns Mercury metaphorically, right? Um, but when it's 0.17 or closer, that's called a cazimi, and it makes the planet, usually it's Mercury, it could be Mars, Jupiter, Venus, whatever. But whatever that planet is, a superpower. It takes the power of the sun. It fuses its power with the power of the sun. So yeah, so Mercury is the mind, communication, the brain. So you can imagine that people with um yeah, with a Kazemi, that Mercury becomes a superpower. And it's in the sign of Gemini already, which is a very, very strong place to have Mercury. Now, interestingly, it is retrograde. And to have that retrograde, it's not a good, it's definitely not a bad thing. I think in this case, it gives, sorry, I'm just bringing a cup really quick. It just gives this real ability to be very good in the right brain areas and left brain areas, right? Because Gemini is, Mercury and Gemini, being a Gemini, Cazimi Mercury, people like that are very, very, very quick thinkers, very lots of mental dexterity. Now the key is for him with his North Node in Pisces. North Node represents your spiritual journey, not just spiritual, just your overall like by following the North Node sign, you're getting to that's how you follow. That's how you gain, I guess you could say, spiritual success in this lifetime, and it doesn't always feel very easy. So you have the South Node and the North Node, right? And they're opposite points on the chart. The South Node is sort of, you could think of it as like the been there, done that in different incarnations. Um, and the North Node is, and yeah, so the South Node comes very easily, right? Um, because we're used to it, but and it's not a bad thing. Um, right? But a lot of people, when they get stuck in their South Node, it's almost just like the soul has been there, done that, right? Um, they don't need to in past lives they've kind of done all they need to do in respect to that, and they're trying to go for the North Node. So having North Node in Pisces is very significant because it's a very spiritual um purpose for him being here, right? And it doesn't mean that he has to leave the world behind and quit his job and just start doing astrology. No, like when I say spiritual, I have a very loose and it's a very the definition is very subjective and it differs person to person. You know, I would say having a spiritual relationship with yourself, right? Where one is introspective, where one is interested in growing, um, as a soul, where one is being compassionate, perhaps, right? Or just compassionate and I was gonna say, being of service, perhaps in some way, right, in their life. But really, a lot of it has to do with adaptability and kind of this open-mindedness, right? Which can be difficult for a moon in Capricorn. But this is the thing, a Gemini Capricorn combination of sun and moon is very, very interesting because as many know, these are the two most important planets, sun and moon. It's the feminine, the masculine, right? So you try to understand what the combination is telling you. And having one in the moon in Capricorn, even though it is conjunct Uranus, which changes a lot, and or even more so Neptune and Saturn, it's right in the midst of that. So it's actually, yeah, I imagine I would be surprised if Enda was not a spiritual person in some way, because all the Capricorn, so many of the people with the Sun or Moon in Capricorn that I get from this generation have that, right? So it's not in regular Capricorn. It's a very, very compassionate. My brother has this exact thing, right? Um, very compassionate and very imaginative, very understanding. But the thing about it, especially as a male with the moon in Capricorn, I've written articles about this. It typically is very difficult for moon in Capricorn people to be vulnerable and to share their emotions. Of course, with life experience, they can get to a point where this is easier. And this is a big part of this chart, right? It's to not like end up being in his south node. So being in the less evolved version of himself would look like him, for example, being overly obsessed with the material realm. Um, and like I'm saying, it's not to say leave that behind, right? I'm not saying that at all, right? I'm saying it's about balance. So an over obsession with that, an over obsession with what other people think of him, um, you know, like I said, like it's just Capricorn moons. I haven't met. I've met very few, if any, Capricorn moon males who find it easy to, you know, to really show their true self. And sometimes that's not a bad thing, right? That's not, I mean, they do it, but it takes a very compassionate partner or friend or someone like that. They open up slowly, and usually they had to grow up very fast as kids. Where's the Chiron? Cancer. Yeah. So I imagine that there was some issues, maybe feeling misunderstood with at home growing up by the family, some maybe some karmic pain around the family. And um is Mercury making aspects besides the sun? Is the sun making? Oh, damn. Wow. So interesting. So the sun, Mercury are Kazemi and they're not conjunct anything. So it's almost like he has this super intelligent energy that can intimidate people because it's the Mercury's retrograde. So it's more abstract, but then it's mixing logical with abstract and it's very introspective. Um, but sometimes kids who have Mercury retrograde can be very gifted, but they might have trouble with just with how the education system is in a lot of countries, the constraints of the education system in many countries. And they sometimes they might have a communication problem like this, they might be like dyslexic or have something um like that gets undiagnosed, and then they get in their head this idea that there's something wrong with their intelligence when really it's not the case at all, right? Or they have, they're just very misunderstood because they're very in their heads and they feel like when they share when they share themselves truly, they get shut down. So they just say screw it. Now, mm, mm, yeah. So as I was saying, Cat Moon is the goal is to be able, I always say it's a very karmic position. It's to be able to think of the emotions they want to be like water, right? Um, on some level, right? And I'm saying this and I'm not perfect at this at all, right? I don't cry very often or anything like that. So I'm not gonna like I just want to put that out there. I'm not sitting here on on any high horse, but um like the point is that there's extremes, right? So a Capricorn moon, like, and there's also in astrology, every single thing in your chart, there is a high and a low manifestation of everything, and then every manifestation in between, and one can go up and down, right? You can like so the low Capricorn moon potential is, caring way too much what people think of them, being overly strict, and there a lot of times people will have some of the low, some of the high, right? Overly strict, or overly strict or hard on themselves, right? Like really really, because oftentimes people with cat moons, they had parents who is yeah parents who were pretty cold, like their early nurturing usually lacked this nurturing, this emotional closeness. And you have Mars opposite Moon too. So yeah, there could have been some fights or just some kind of difficult energy. And that's something that can even continue into relationships, right? Seventh house Mars, where there can be some projection in relationships where um, things that are really maybe from the parents or from early childhood trauma, unresolved trauma, or whatever it is, can come out in relationships. But really, it's not about, it's not, yeah, it's about finding the root of that. But back to what I was saying. So with this moon, yeah, the low is it's yeah, it can make someone quite shy, quite inhibited emotionally, and yeah, so it's the stuck Chris there's stuck crystallized emotional patterns that are meant to be liquefied in this lifetime, meaning um, not feeling like you have to hold yourself back emotionally, not feeling like you have to be the tough one that's always resolute and always, because when a Capricorn moon person is sad, you can be in a mansion and if you're any bit intuitive, you'll feel their sadness super heavily, right? And they'll often mask it. Um, and yeah, it can be really hard for them to be vulnerable. Um, and with someone as intelligent as you, one potential, which I'm not saying is a potential, because you even have your Venus conjunct Jupiter in Gemini. So you're a gifted communicator, writer, communicator, whatever it is, right? And very good for studying anything, even creativity, because it's in the fifth house. But regardless, um, and that's so good for your health, like physical health astrology. Unreal. The two best planets, most beneficial planets, Venus and Jupiter, conjunct together in the house of the sixth house of of physical health. So that's amazing, right? Now, as I was saying, cat moons, that's the thing. It's just hard to speak their feelings, to let it out, and they just have to get better at it through practice. And then it feels uncomfortable at first, but once it becomes once it's like jumping off a cliff. Once someone does it once, off a cliff into water. Let me be precise. It gets easier. So yeah, that's kind of the thing. Now with your specific cat moon, right? You see all these planets around there. Those are I see those as so activations. But in my view, especially in a male's chart in today's world, like they're still going to be there. So like your Neptune on your moon is going to make you very compassionate. It's going to make you really almost like kind of Pisces moon energy where you can sort of feel other people's energy, um, quite sensitive. I imagine that you're someone that needs your alone time, that needs to be a recluse, um, for your mental health and just for for feeling good, right? For feeling like at ease. You just need to have periods of alone time. And especially with where you live and where you work and all that stuff, just very, very sensitive to energies. Now, people can shut this part of themselves off, right? And also a part of that could be escapist tendencies, right? I've seen that with a lot of people who have come across with this type of thing where they had some period in their life where it was just too much and they, whether it's drugs, alcohol, whatever. So, but also they're giver that they really on an emotional level want to do something with their work, with their life, where they feel like they're truly giving back to the world, right? It's like that high Capricorn moon is like that honor, that desire to really do something that matters, right? It's very responsible. It's the boss, it's the elder. And because they had to grow up, they were in situations usually where they had, sometimes they had to be the take like a almost a parental role pretty early in life. They are super responsible, but at the same time, they they need to be able to be I wish there was a better word. I don't like the word inner child. But yeah, that they have they need to still be able to be goofy, right? Um, which is great that you have a Sagittarius ascendant because that can make you a big adventurer as well. And as a Gemini sun, learning is a huge thing for you, right? What I'll say about that before going back to Capricorn is that avoiding dogmatism and finding the correct balance of the Sag Gemini axis It's the acts of learning of information. So think of life as a research project, and Gemini is the data collection. Sagittarius is where you turn the data into the actual study, right? And you compile the overarching ideas and truths that guide your reality, right? So the slip up on one side is being too much in the data collection, where there's a collection of worthless data, right? Or just not ever deepening into like, okay, like how do I kind of take everything that I've experienced, right? And just always experience. That's too much on one side. Um, Too much on the other side is dogmatism, like not being willing to understand that everyone in the world has their own truth, and that, you know, you can always like just intellectual open mindedness, being able to admit no matter how smart, wise, or whatever you are, that there's, the more I know, the more I know nothing. And that's so important. I always say that what's the point of intelligence if there's no wisdom to apply it to, right? So, but you will have a very, 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 very capable mind, and it's meant to do great things. It's in the fifth house, so there is some creative destiny there as well, right? Okay. Now, also, relationships are very, very important, and they're a place where where a lot of healing can take place, and also just where a lot of the overall life energy is going. Um, and you'll be quite fortunate in that area of life, but there also can be a lot of there can be some sadness, and it's important to not be too reliant on relationships to be like codependent, like to be in that state of being where I need a relationship to complete me, right? That happens sometimes because in whole sign this all goes in the seventh to Gemini, and it's a lot of energy there. But yeah, embracing new beginnings and being able to let go is really, really important for you overall. And Capricorn moon, back to what I was saying, so with Uranus, that's an exciting placement, and a lot of psychics or very intuitive people have that connection. But the thing is, and this is no other astrologer will tell you this. This is my idea. I believe that so that you have access to this incredible Neptunian and Uranian energy, but you have to dig and find it and activate it, right? And Saturn's there, which is inhibitor. So the first 30 years most likely would have been pretty tough emotionally. Um, and it could have been difficult in relation to showing your true self. There could have been some fear around allowing that true self to show. And also some confusion, you know, as to who that true self is. But self-expression, if you were like an artist, that's like having a creative outlet would be so incredible for everything in your chart. So incredible. Okay. Mars, Pluto, Saturn, and then so Pluto comes in and sort of plays as this equalizing force between Mars and the moon. And another thing about Mars moon is that it's really important for you to have physical activity in your life. First of all, your mind, the Kazemi, it just makes things so active up there. And Gemini there can be a big potential for anxiety. So, being able and you have a very beneficial chart for having a very solid day-to-day routine. but just knowing that that is very important for you. Because what can happen is that moon opposite Mars, even though Mars is in Cancer, which isn't known for being like a sign that a Mars sign, which is your assertiveness function, right? The kind of like leftover animal instinct. So Mars in a think of the color red, right? But Mars in a water sign is usually quite very peaceful, right? Um, it's opposite Saturn, opposite Uranus or Neptune also. So yeah, so that Mars, it would just be difficult to find, especially for the first 30 years or so, to find that personal power and also boundaries. Boundaries could be something that could be difficult with all that mutable energy. Of course, Capricorn is known for boundaries, but it's like sometimes Capricorn moons, they have to really deal with a lot of shame early on in life and get past that. And then after that, they're able to have very strong boundaries and be like the people that are relied on, where people rely on these people, right? But yeah, so there can be, I don't know, a feeling with it can be, it might not be quick to anger and things can build up. And sometimes the shadow of Mars, Cancer is passive aggression. And but like working out when you have Mars opposite Moon is super, super important and helpful. Or just anything that gets you in touch with your energy, right? Whether it could be yoga, whatever. But Mars is activity, it's sports, and it's in water signs. So I'm not saying swimming is the only sport you can do. Actually, a lot of tennis players I've noticed have Mars in water signs, but um, yeah, like just being able to have that consistency, and then even you know, there's a lot in your chart that indicates that your life, there's a lot of karma in the first 30 years, and then after the Saturn return, which we're at now, a lot of the energy opening up, and it's very important for people with those charts. I always tell them like if there is like to not allow any shame from your first 30 years to take to like think of your life as restarting post 30, right? In a way, like just the chapter is past, right? And everything that led up to that is just lessons and was all necessary. It's all karma that you had to go through. So now you're in a position, but like sometimes people they'll take that shame with them from maybe some things they did they're embarrassed of, right? Whatever. So yeah, I guess the more you're able to open up, even if it's just with one person, and even if it's just sometimes, right? Being able to cry, for example, that is so important because sometimes Capricorn moons can have so much stored up, that there's this tension which can actually lead to psychosomatic elements, right? Um, Psychosomatic symptoms, tension in the body. So yeah. Um, Now the need for a Capricorn moon in love is reliability. Um, it's someone who they know that they can trust, right? They know they're going to be, that person's going to be the same version of themselves day after day. And then from that, they're able to open up and even, be in that more inner child energy. Now, when I speak about that, I want to also say that you have 4 planets in Gemini. This is a super fun sign, right? It's a sign that is very, very, very versatile, very curious about the world and fast movement, right? It's like a social butterfly energy. But with your Mercury retrograde, you could be someone who I wouldn't be surprised if you kind of just thought a lot of people, I'm not necessarily saying it in a cynical way, but if you just sort of saw the world in a way where you're just looking at a lot of people and just like these people are stupid. Um, and what can happen is just like this, like almost giving up. But the thing about Gemini is very like conversative, right? And it's great at debating and proving, it's like I said, it's gift of gab. It's gifted with communicating. Um, and as I said before, it is retrograde, so it would be interesting in our follow up to discuss how that plays out because I would imagine it's the best of both worlds, but you probably need to recharge to have periods of recharging. But then, yeah, I've seen it. I've seen it work in different ways. I've seen it work where the person is just, you know, able to take like from the more abstract, more right brain type of thinking, and then also the more left brain logical type of thinking. Um, but yeah, I've also seen them just being, yeah, just being more shy, more reserved. And that's the thing with Capricorn Moon is that they can really grade themselves a lot lower than they are sometimes and sell themselves short and lack confidence when they should not lack confidence. So going back to the nodal journey, right? The spiritual journey towards Pisces, second house, is about developing spiritual values that are true to you and moving away from, and I also see, yeah, moving away from being too mercurial, too in your head, too logical. If that's how you are, this is the lifetime where you're not you are a Gemini, so you are gonna be like that, but it's a balance, right? So, example, follow my Instagram. I talk about this stuff all the time, right? I always talk about the metaphysical value and the physical value and how we're conditioned to think about the physical value of what we're doing. How much is my job paying me? How much, what's the point of me doing this thing or that thing, right? From this very logical manner, as opposed to, oh, what's the metaphysical value of me doing this thing? Maybe it's just it's not about getting anything back, right? It's about knowing that, you're here for God, and you're here for God and you're here to do, and this like astrology and all that, like it's above, it's a lot deeper than religion. It's a lot deeper than that, right? And really Pisces energy is about finding that within yourself, being your own guru in a sense. Now, you have the square, nodal square with Mercury, right? That's interesting to me. That is self-limiting beliefs from past lives, potentially overly rigid thinking from past lives, voices in your head, not physical ones, but just, you know, the interjects and self-limiting beliefs that might tell you you're not good enough or might tell you whatever, right? So the way to handle that is to first have awareness of what they are, go within with mindfulness, do meditations, journal. You have to journal, right? What those are. And then when you do that, you notice them when they come up in your everyday life, which this isn't an easy process. It takes time. Um, and that's the awareness portion. And then you start to alchemize them, right? Once you see, let's say, for example, there's a self-limiting belief, like Stockholm syndrome. Not, yeah, just, let's say Stockholm syndrome. What's it called when you think you don't belong somewhere, whatever. Basically, like, yeah, that you don't deserve, I don't know, a job you have, right? Even though you're super qualified. Observing that as it comes up. Okay, that's this voice or this belief that comes from somewhere that's telling me this. Okay, I'm aware of it. Now, what's an affirmation that you can tell yourself each time that comes up? And this affirmation, you can meditate on this affirmation, and it's more based in truth, right? But we're not always seeing truth. We're not always on that, you know? So in those moments of clarity, maybe it's after a long workout. I don't know what it is for you. Um, that's really important to do that. So yeah, so like I said, you have the potential to be like a extremely like extreme spiritual powerhouse, even to the point of like helping other people as a profession, if that's what you want. Because with all your Gemini, it's like you can dip your toes in so many different waters. And the key is to not be the jack of all trades, master of none. It is good. Gemini, they do love to try so many different things, right? Um, but when you find that one or two things that are really the most important, then just focusing there. Um, but there's a lot of energy in your chart, like for example your Scorpio midheaven and Pluto in the 10th, like that makes you want to give back, right? Which is interesting because in whole sign you have a 12th house midheaven, which I never see that. But either way, yeah, I mean that's kind of speaking to wanting to work and like maybe something that's more behind the scenes, but something that has deep meaning and where you're able to access the collective unconscious, right? You're able to understand the secrets of the world, or just, like the overall energy and psychology of the day and of people and of the modern day through your work, right? Like midheaven and Scorpio people, a lot of times they struggle in career. I mean, it's not they don't struggle in anything with all your Gemini, right? But they especially with your moon the way it is, right? It's like wanting to do something where you truly on a soul level feel like you're helping, and what you're doing is very, very good for society. Now, of course, Capricorn is linked with money and success in the material, right? And that's not a bad thing. Your South Node, like I said, it's in Virgo, so there's a lot of been there, done that around being extremely extremely good when it comes to handling everything in the material world. But because of the self-limiting beliefs that come up in this lifetime, but come from past lives, you hold yourself back from dreaming. That's the North Node in Pisces. It's like allowing yourself to dream, allowing yourself to believe anything is possible. Now, if the things I'm saying right now are things that you've worked on, or that you've worked on, and you've you know they're you've gotten there, then that's amazing, right? But that's typically what happens, right? And yeah, I think another aspect of the karmic journey is being able to, I already talked about like finding these spiritual values, right? Where you're not judging your circumstances based on the conditioned materialism, right? Um, but also finding your own voice as it relates to spirituality, right? Finding your own voice. Let me phrase this correctly. That would be third. Mm, hold on. Four. Yeah, so it would be about yeah, yeah, I guess it is what I was saying. It really is about that spiritual foundation to your being, right? Like what is the foundation of you if you are a skyscraper, if you're a massive building, it's having the foundation of it, the values, right? Because everything done in the dark comes to the light, right? And man, have I experienced this today in the most crazy way. I can't even talk about it, but it just showed me so, so heavily that the spirit world is watching. And, there's people who take shortcuts in life and they think, oh, fuck it, nothing matters, whatever. Like, my like I was hearing about this story of someone also like who astrologer, but very, very ego based, right? And bad person, kind of cheated, in how he did his astrology. This is someone who's, around along, I think he's passed now. And so he made all this money, but he was actually a police officer. So he had people's records. So he could just like, so he would impress them by saying, "Oh, your dad's a Scorpio, your mom's an Aquarius," right? And shit like that. But he was actually, yeah, he actually had access to their records, right? And he was just like a bad guy overall. Buys this huge property somewhere, and this spring, there's this water spring underneath his house that he builds, and it just ruins his house, right? So I mean, it's a good example of how that guy, thought he was taking this big shortcut, and he's great and everything, blah blah blah, and he's showed them he's beat the system, and boom. Hold on one second. Sorry, sorry, sorry. Sorry, sorry, sorry. Okay, sorry about that. I opened a message on accident. I had to respond to it. But anyways, it's gonna take a little breaks. Yeah, so yeah, there's a lot, there's just a lot of letting go, and trusting the universe, and just opening up to new teachings, but yeah, just not being dogmatic, and not, like I was saying before, just always being open to, what's this person have to say, even if it's someone who you don't think you're going to gain anything from. Well, I know there's extremes, right? But like, um, curiosity is the number one thing, right? And I think being a Gemini, that is very good in that respect. So yeah. Oh fuck. Just oh, that's not good. Hold on. Oh, on my mom's carpet. I'm like licking the. I'm not licking the carpet. I'm licking my fingers. Come on, come on. I'm literally gonna burn my finger by rubbing this carpet like this. Okay, I need to go grab some. Anyways, yeah, so the Pisces, and also another thing about your chart is that um there's this energy that's very much about, like, I call it like the hero's journey, where people with the sun square their nodes, like they're usually like in some way they have to get past. I've seen it in some instances where it's like the person, because your south node's in Virgo. Yeah, it's almost like a lot about letting go of the ego, but like also, um you know I think that there's a big resemblance with the Joseph Campbell, his whole hero's journey, like the archetype of the hero's journey. And usually people with that, like, they don't really have a lot in common. Mm, it's almost like not necessarily a lot in common, but it's like they have to usually take a path that's pretty different than their parents, right? Um, so they have to really like find that within themselves to understand, like, all right, and I already saw you have the Cancer Chiron, right? So I have that too. So it's like, you know, it's not so, so easy. A lot of people with that, they just feel quite misunderstood. Sometimes they're the black sheep in the family, whatever, right? But yeah, probably the smartest in your family. I'd be very surprised if you weren't. And um it's just really about getting past, um like I said, like your whole, like everything, like like the Capricorn moon, like, oh my God, there's so much potential with all those conjunctions you have. And like you're the only person that can hold yourself back 1,000%, right? Your perception of yourself, if that's strong, amazing, right? But and like I said, my guess, if I had to guess, would be that it got a lot easier after 30. Um, but okay, but yeah, um, when like the way that this chart works at the highest level, it's someone Sag rising who is adventurous, right? Who understands that, they're gonna like to travel, they're gonna like to go to different cultures, they're gonna like to learn, and really caring more about the truth, right? Caring more about the truth than any intellectual bullshit ego. Fuck that. Like people like people who um just care so much about appearing smart and never losing an argument, those people never grow. They never learn. Like for me, I have zero insecurities about my intelligence, right? And I'm so like I'm happy. Like if I'm wrong about something, for example, and someone tells me, even if it's public and they're not rude about it, like I'll literally be like thankful, right? Because if I was wrong about something, all that person's done is get me closer to the truth. That's all I care about. So, um, yeah, a lot of people in today's world are, yeah, very, very attached to their intellect to kind of give them, taking their ego from that. So let's see here. I would say also, um, hmm, yeah, another big karmic test for you is to not scatter your energy in all directions, and and yeah, and really put your communication skills to good use in this lifetime. and all that intellect or just intelligence, like, have that be for a good purpose, right? But you do, like I said, very highly developed communication skills. But also, I would say, like, um, avoiding any tendency to talk rather than, um, you know, move towards action. So yeah. So, like I was saying, like learning communication skills is really important, especially when it has to do with conflict and needs and boundaries and all that stuff. Because um, if you do struggle to express yourself assertively, it can end in conflict. It might not be right away, but it can be emotional disputes, passive aggressiveness. That's, or just the cancer, Mars, cancer in general, the energy of kind of just avoiding it, hiding. It's like the crab that hides within its shell. So it's really, really important. And I would say also a karmic lesson to be able to have conversations that are difficult to have. And yeah, like it's like there's this book called Nonviolent Communication. It's a really good book. Probably one of the best books that I read in my two psychology masters. And I think everyone should have to read that book. I mean, maybe not have to, but everyone should. It's one of those books. I wouldn't say that about many books, but I think it just really it's just a great guide for communicating in ways, and it's good. It's not just for relationships. It's good for all, good for anything in life, right? So yeah, but also, I'm gonna switch the whole signs in a sec, but yeah, Mars opposite Saturn, like that can be difficult for especially the first 30 years because it can feel like you're being like taking, one step forward, and then the universe pushes you two steps back, and then three steps forward, two steps back, and then two steps forward, four steps back. And then what happens post 30, and that's why so many people with Mars square Mars opposite Saturn are so successful, is that they keep this resilience, and then post 30 they don't have that bullshit anymore, right? That bullshit that just keeps pulling them back. So, yeah, yeah, yeah. I would say also with that, I've noticed people can be like they can feel, yeah, like pull between expressing their energy, their assertiveness, and holding it back, right? Sometimes assertive, other times unassertive. Usually the father figure restricted their independence in childhood, or one of the parents, usually it's the father. So yeah, the goal is to be able to blend Saturn and Mars, right? Which is like really about responsibility of action, and moving in a very, you know, it can even be like slow and steady wins the race, not giving up when things go against you, right? And self-discipline is the key word there. So then Mars and Neptune, that is really important to know about because, you know, that's when I see a lot with Mars, Neptune. It can blur the lines a lot when it comes to action. Like there can be some level of fog around one's actions. it can be very, very spiritual as well, right? Um, but the lines can be blurred. I've seen sometimes a lot of escapism and self-sabotage with that. So when one feels like they don't deserve something on an unconscious level, like let's say it's a relationship they're in, they feel like, oh, I don't deserve this person. They might self-sabotage to, you know, break up with that person first, so so in their mind that they can't break up with them at, you know, because they're for sure going to or whatever, but it's not true. So yeah, I think like it's very imaginative. It's very daydreamy, or not daydreamy, just the dream. It's a dreamer, you know. Um, very creative as well. But I would say the big thing there is that people with that can mm, how do I say this? Yeah, like I mean I've seen it's actually interesting because a lot of the clients I've talked to who have this, I've seen a lot of people who have Saturn square Mars, Saturn opposite Mars, who have issues with substances. But then I've seen a lot of people also who their family members had it, and they were like, I'm never touching an ounce of alcohol, right? But then yeah, I've seen a lot of extremes with that. I have had some people though who just have like a very normal relationship to it, the substances in general. Um, but yeah, overall, I would say it can make someone feel weak. Um, and you know, I would say it can make someone, yeah, their own worst enemy, right? Um, paranoia. So yeah. I'd say also sometimes the Mars opposite Neptune, it can make someone try to like be a little like sneaky. Um, just yeah, like because of like some type of paranoia, yeah, paranoia. I don't know. I, but you know, overall, it is very, very good for helping people, right? That's how you kind of fix this energy is you be of service, and then it just opens up. And even everything with the moon, like you have gifts as a healer, right? And you might even feel dissatisfied with life if you're not using that in some way, perhaps, right? And like I said before, it's not about like if you have a job and career that you're very happy with. I'm not saying in any way, shape, or form I would never say that, right? I'm just saying, like, just in the everyday life, right? It could even be something that's like, for some reason, I don't like saying volunteering 'cause it just sounds too like something about it. It's like volunteer. And I get that's good, but, like, just, I guess, just like causes that one cares about, or even being there for friends or family, right? Because another thing about Mars Cancer is that makes someone very defensive about their family, right? And they also have this urge, Mars to Cancer, to be at home and to be within themselves, right? So I've seen people with this quite introspective, and also I would say they can be quite emotionally led with their actions, even if your chart, you know, you do have a lot of very logical energy. The key is to have your emotions in a place where everything is very in line and in tuned and synced up. So then, you know, like your emotions are, because the high Capricorn is that integrity, that spiritual integrity with Neptune, right? The Uranus integrity, or, you know, which is, you know, of being your own person, of being free, of individualization, right? That's a need for you. So being able to be like that as well and to have your actions match that. Um, 1 second, I'm looking for something. Yeah, so it's pretty much like this. It's like there can be like a lot of distortions in your actions. A lot of like misunderstandings or potentially, right? Um, Paranoia. Like so basically it's like um the unconscious mind can be very activated and there can be some confusion that then can make one act in a way that's self-sabotaging usually, right? Um, so when someone's able, and this is why the whole thing with being of service and your North Node in Pisces is so important because the key to Neptune transits is to, well, actually, one thing that really helps with Neptune transits is filming yourself because Neptune rules cameras and you can literally just film yourself. You don't have to show anyone, talk about whatever, and almost like you're like a YouTuber with your daily vlogs. And that helps a lot. That's a kind of a magic trick with Neptune. But um, yeah, just being very like clear, like really trying to figure out the inner motivations, right? But yeah, service is really what does it because through being of service, you activate. It's just this thing that happens. You understand yourself better through helping someone else, right? And more clarity comes. So yeah. Another thing about Mar and like South Node and Virgo too, and the whole thing with North Node and Pisces is like having faith in life and in the God, right? In the universe. Like, and with this, sometimes people with this, they can lack that faith in life, the trust, all that, right? Um, and they can be, yeah, very, very suspicious of different things. And not trust themselves, right? Because like a lot of times their own motivations and desires, there's like they don't fully comprehend where they come from. Like I knew a guy who had something like this, different but similar, and he was dating my friend who's a girl, and he would just like do the like he would be doing super well, and then out of nowhere he would just do something so stupid, and you just be like what the fuck, like what, you know, and it was so random, so yeah. But then he started becoming spiritual, or he started kind of like, developing himself better. And I think a lot of that went away. So yeah, I think like with Mars, Neptune, though, it's just like the confrontation of reality. Um, Not, the over escapism and hiding from things. And just like looking at whatever comes up when I talk about this, right? And bringing awareness to it and, figuring out how to integrate it, figuring out where it comes from, right? Which I said there's the karmic self-limiting beliefs. So yeah. And through that, relationships become deeper. And, you know, I think another thing with Mars is like, your ambitions in life and being able to evaluate those, right? Um, so you're following a path that's in line with with your true inner self, right? Because I would say with this, honestly, like someone who was following like a more glitz and glamour type path, like could really struggle with this type of placement, right? More specific, something I just know about this one is like avoiding stimulants is wise. Especially with all the Gemini, it can make someone, yeah, quite nervous. Um, and oh yeah, so important. Like I've seen people with this be gullible. I'm not saying that's you at all. Um, but that's just one thing to know that sometimes people will like who have these, they will attract other and people who are trying to take advantage of them, even people like in the spiritual world, right? Um, there's a lot of shady people who are just frauds, or if not frauds, overcharging and all that stuff. So yeah. Okay. I went really deep on that one, but I don't know. I feel like I had to. Um, yeah. Anyways, okay. So, yeah, Saturn moon, as I said, like that, it's just, yeah, it can usually make someone quite shy first 30 years, especially, like I said earlier, I already talked about that, like lack of warmth, parent figure, um, cold. A lot of times it's like, a lot of perfectionism is pushed in the family, right? Um, like only deserving love if you become a certain way or get certain grades or do certain things at sports, right? Stuff like that. Um, I talked about this, the need to like kind of shut yourself um off from the world at times. Um, mm, mm, mm. And yeah, just like developing your artistic, spiritual, creative nature and avoiding, negative people and and drugs. That's how you get to your highest potential. Um, that's still with your moon. That's very interesting. I think that is, you know, yeah, there's, I mean, I think that just speaks to like you needing work once again. Um, that feeds your emotional well-being, um, like where there's like this ritual to it that feeds your emotional well-being. Um, and just in general, right? And with your sixth house, it's very true too. Also for you, pets. I'm so jealous. You like, I'm obsessed with cats and all animals, but your sixth house Venus in Jupiter, like if you don't like pets, I would be blown away. But that's like super good luck when it comes to pets and the effect that they can have on you and like karmic pets, right? Whether it's dogs, cats, whatever, right? All right. Um, so yeah, just like really about like nurturing yourself on the daily through good habits, food, sleep, quality time with loved ones, all that stuff, right? Good work-life balance. All right. Yeah, so there's a lot already all over about just like self-expression. Um, the potential for like, let's say like when you're communicating, like do blocks come up, right? Do like edits, you know, just like it's almost like a blockade. Like do things like that come up when you're communicating? I know it's different around different people. Once again, avoiding energy vampires so important, right? People, yeah, I don't have to explain it, right? But so I guess like my idea of what that is someone who on the on like just on the scale of give take in a relationship, they just take, and use people, and just kind of it's kind of narcissistic ends. So all right, so I switch this over. Yeah, and then Neptune, like first house people, like they want to like take their dream and imaginary world and imprint that into their everyday life, right? And then Uranus, first house, it's like, just expressing yourself in like a very, very like individualistic way that might defy conventions, might be a little bit unusual, but it's very original and finding yourself through that, right? All right. Um, and yeah, like Pluto in the 10th, right? It's like, you're here to make a difference, right? And you're here to you're here to your career is a big deal, right? It can make you a very powerful leader in whatever you do. And you may throughout your life experience many um big transformations in terms of what you deem is the most important thing for you to do and what you want to do for a living, right? Now I know that it is a fixed sign, Scorpio, for your midheaven, but still, you know, as you grow, right? We're always growing, and like with your chart, I would hope that you're always learning and your worldview is shifting, right? And even when we're at an extremely high level of that, we can still have a worldview shift, or something can shift, right? And sometimes in that, and it's not just career, it's just your dharma, like what you see as your overall mission, that can switch too. So yeah. All right. Besides that, let's see. Okay. So very, very karmic. Like all of your relationships are super karmic. Juno on the South Node, same degree, 0 degrees, right? But it's like this energy where they are very karmic, but there's also a lot of opportunities to start all over with them. 0 degrees, right? So yeah, it's almost like new karma with old karma people. Yeah. Now, more about love, and I give a love formula. Um, if you guys ever want to get a compatibility reading, that's something completely different. This is just what I would read, you know, and this is just how I would read this chart, regardless of anything I might know about um Miss Ani. So yeah, Venus and Gemini always gets a bad rep. Um, but it's not bad. I mean, people laugh about it like, oh, I have Venus and Gemini. I think the main thing is that it can get bored quite easily. Um, at times, right? And sometimes Venus and Gemini, like I always say, like they might be the one that accidentally starts dating someone, right? Just because that person um just really activated them. So Venus and Gemini, they'll typically like, you know, mer lovers that are very, very interesting, right? But also, someone mercurial, right? So like Mercury signs, Gemini, Virgo, um, Aquarius, like that's not Mercury sign, but like, air energy. But that's just one part. That's what one values, right? So yeah, someone who you can have a conversation with, right? And but because the Mercury is retrograde, I think that there's just someone really, really understanding. Someone, and just with your Capricorn energy, like I said, you need like Capricorn moons, I think they kind of need to have someone with a little bit of earth energy because if they don't, it could be a little bit testy because I mean they don't need, but like Virgo, Taurus, and obviously Capricorn, like these are energies that are very grounding to the Capricorn moon and make them feel like, okay, I have this foundation, now I can build, right? So yeah. Um, but yeah, Venus and Gemini also can be a spendthrift. So you have to watch out for spending to like kind of like have restraint around that. It loves books, loves any kind of media, really. Um, and yeah. Now the fact that it's with Jupiter, you will have such tremendous luck, and you already do because Annie's amazing, but such tremendous luck with any kind of partners you have, and they will help you grow like crazy, you know? That's like and this is also an amazing placement. This is, not related to love, but just for popularity and just being well loved, fun loving, very generous, right? Someone who, yeah, who knows how to give and really wants to make people happy, and very adventurous, philosophical. It's amazing. Just search Jupiter conjunct Venus on Jupiter conjunct Venus natal on Google and see what it says, right? You'll be like, yeah. I mean, it's a great teacher, you know, very good for reaching goals. And the only thing with that is just, yeah, watching out for overindulgence. But as a Capricorn moon, that will usually have you be more chill. But as a Gemini, maybe not. It goes both ways because the way I didn't really talk about this at the start, but the way, being a Gemini, right? So it's like your big three. It's Gemini, and I'll get back to love stuff in a sec. But Gemini Sun, right? Capricorn Moon, Sag Rising. So that's fire, earth, and air, right? And then you have all the elements in your personal plants. But the point is that Gemini, like I said, it's very, very active. It's all over the place. It's the social energy, expressive, all that. And then Capricorn can be a little bit held back. It's not the only thing about it, but it can be on the lunar level, it can be a little bit more restrained, as I've talked about, right? So, but like also it's very, very, like I feel like Capricorn moons, they have this very good logic and this good bullshit detector, right? And I think that it can kind of they are 5 signs away, which means that the signs, don't really have that much to do with each other. I wouldn't be so surprised if the parents here, were divorced, but not necessarily the case. But I would probably say, hold on. I would probably say that they have very different views on things. Um, so then Sun is quincunxing Uranus, which is interesting. That's another one that can be a little bit like such electric energy. It's like you need that grounding, which it's almost like the Capricorn moon is really good for you in that way, right? But it can make one quite irritable at times. It goes back to like that need for working out, for getting the energy out. But yeah, a lot of times there's like this inner tension. um and this crazy need for change and stimulation. So it could show up like with respect to love and just in life in general, with commitment issues. Not necessarily though, right? A Capricorn moon, like I said, Capricorn moon in your chart is the part that would push that away, right? Um and prefer commitment. But yeah, I'm just saying. But so this is like one where you absolutely like non-negotiable do you need a channel for this like electric creative energy that's inside you, right? And it's something that's like work related or something that's creative like play or turning your play into your work, right? So yeah. Um if it's not put to good use, yeah, it can make someone very agitated, um erratic, all that kind of stuff. And it builds up in the body, right? So there can be like, sudden outbursts, rash actions, accidents, even just out of nowhere. So it's like really asking you to ground yourself. And yeah, just like acceptance that you are different and just getting comfortable with that, right? Um, because sometimes with Uranus Sun, hard aspects, it can make someone like too rebellious, where they're just rebelling for the sake of rebelling, not because that's the right answer, right? If someone says, don't do this, and they do it just because that person said don't do it, not because they're actually thinking critically. So really hope it's um but yeah, like it's also someone that's not gonna just like take shit from people, right? Um and who's very inventive, you know. So yeah. Um but I would say with that, like it's very, very important to yeah to cool the energy down. It can lead to some level of like ostracization. How do you say that word? Being ostracized from communities, friend groups, whatever. So um so yeah. So yeah, moon's also opposite Chiron. So that is just usually around spiritual pain relate like or I guess yeah, emotional pain from the mother that comes usually. I don't like the mother thing. I like just from the early nurturing. Um, and it can, seventh house especially have someone attract partners that reflect that pain or just situations too. And um let me think about this one. Yeah, Chiron is our wounds, but it's also our greatest talents. Our talents as a healer. So a lot of healers have this type of aspect, right? Um, but there could also be like yeah, attracting a partner that sparks those wounds and really and then thinking that oh, this partner's fault. Really, it's you know coming from the childhood usually, right? And perhaps like that partner's allowing you to face the pain, which is how you heal it, right? So it's a blessing. Anyway, so yeah, so interesting. The sun and Mercury just chilling together, unaspected, right? I mean, mm, no, I just talked about the quincunx with Uranus, but yeah, I mean, besides that, it really is, you know, so strong. And Gemini, Fifth house, that's it's a fun energy. So like also back to love, you need someone who feels like who's grounding, who feels like a metaphoric, who you can express your emotions to and open up to, who feels like family in some way, right? If you just that closeness, it's like something you can only feel intuitively that you can't even explain it. And then, Juno is in Virgo, right? So, Virgo energy, right, which is just it's very consistent. Um, so I can't remember if Annie has any, if she has Virgo. I forget this stuff, but yeah, there's no way I'll remember. But because I almost don't want to say this if she doesn't. Should I look? Well, that's the thing. It's like South Node with Virgo could indicate, that you have a soulmate type energy with a someone who has Virgo in their chart, or just with, like the idea that someone mercurial, right? Um, you would have, a lot of importance with that person. But something tells me, I swear Annie has some earth energy. I know she does. I just can't remember. Let me check. Oh, look at me. Virgo, triple Virgo. Yeah. So there you go, right? You guys are meant to be in that sense, right? Yeah, that's really, really cool. So yeah, Juno is like kind of what you look for, like in a deeper connection, like dare I say marriage. Just yeah, like my girlfriend, for example, her Juno my Juno is conjunct her sun, right? In Scorpio. So um your Juno's conjunct your girlfriend's not sun, but in the same sign, right? And with your South Node there, that just shows that you guys were together in past lives. All right. So I'd say part of your shadow work is around boundaries. Making sure that the give and take in different situations is that you're not just giving, 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 and that you're not putting yourself down in order to have everything balanced in the environment. Um, and also that you're not dogmatic when it comes to philosophies, right? That you're not thinking you know better than someone else, right? Even if you do. Um, but also I'd say like ninth house Lilith could make someone very at odds with this with society's establishments. Um, even like things like religion and government and stuff like that, right? It just makes someone very rebellious with a very different philosophy. Um, so yeah, I think it's cool. But like the whole thing is like learning to agree to disagree with individuals. Because like yeah, like I said, with the like in yeah, eh, that's huge. And um, yeah, 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 yeah. I'd say another shadow potential, right, is mm, I've seen it sometimes with the Black and Lilith and Libra, like worrying too much about other people's business. Um, and just like, yeah, and also people pleasing, right? So being able to tell someone no, and keeping it real is very important. And you'll learn like when you really learn to assert yourself, that's when like you move super rapid in terms of your life journey, right? So yeah. And yeah, like I said, always going back to the North Node, Pisces, amazing. You're here. It's just a quest, a quest for compassion and faith. There's been past lives that have kept you in the more material realm, right? Um, and that yeah, and now you're trying to go the other direction in a way, right? A lot of people start their lives in their south node and move towards the north node, right? So, I would say also with this nodal energy, it can be about being overly judgmental of other people and of self, and learning self-compassion and then compassion for others, right? Like not overly judging this and this and this, and understanding that no one is perfect, right? And yeah, and also letting go. Like sometimes that energy, people can kind of build these like rigid structures in their mind and their life, and not have the flexibility to, you know, work outside of them, right? And all these things, they just block your understanding of your oneness with the universe and all that is, right? So it's about, yeah, developing spiritual understanding in this lifetime and learning to rely on your intuition, right? Yeah, I guess I'd say with Venus and Gemini, it can be very flirtatious, and bored easily in relationships. But yeah, like with that said, all the other energy with relation with respect to relationships and love is very much about groundedness. So like this is why you can't look at one placement in a vacuum in astrology. Hold on. I want to record myself saying this on my story. Sorry. Okay, so this is why you can't take anything in a vacuum in astrology, right? This is why everything has to be looked at with respect to how it fits in with the entire chart. So Venus in Gemini here is actually a good thing, because everything else with respect to your the romantic areas in your chart is very grounded, right? It's very, earth energy, the Mars and Cancer, the Juno, yeah, and Virgo, Cat Moon, all that stuff, right? So this actually gives you that spark. And because it's conjunct Jupiter, that's amazing too, right? But like in someone else's chart, this could be, very difficult, right? It could make someone never happy, nothing's ever satisfying them, right? It's never enough. They always need something more. But for you, it would be, I think, something very, very nice that keeps the spark alive. And then conjunct Jupiter, like I said, tons of luck with respect to who you meet, and you know, like yeah, everyone I've ever met with that, they all agree. Like, yeah, I've been very lucky with with the partners I've met. Okay, let's see here. 1 minute timeout. Okay. Wait, why is he doing this? Okay. Okay, post your freaking story. Anyways, yeah, so let's yeah, I think also one other thing about like, just in general is like touch, sensuality, um even sex, but it's not just like engaging the senses, not just in a romantic way, just in general, um is really, really, really something that brings you a lot of nurturing. It's a way that you can nurture other people. Um and you'll feel very cared for when loved ones give you this sense of stability and security. Um, and yeah, like it's like enjoying to be nurtured in very practical ways, like touch, massage, stroked, cuddle, all that. And then, you know, liking to show your nurturance in that way too. And yeah, there's just so much in your chart about like really, really caring for your family, whether that's your, family of origin or the family that you form. But yeah, I would see use like for example, if you have kids, if you have or had kids, um, very protective father, right? Very good father. Capricorn moon is a very good father. Okay, so now I have it like this. Yeah, so a 12th house Pluto, midheaven, excuse me, is crazy. I've never seen that, I don't think. And basically, um, I think like it just speaks to like how badass, it's the wrong word, how impactful being of service for your career would be. And Pluto in 12th is also in this case about being able to take the leap from, and it's such a good metaphor for your chart, it's unbelievable. Being able to take the leap from the materialism um into the off the cliff of the materialism, and which is Saturn, which rules rocks and cliffs, right? It's interesting. Jumping into off that cliff into the waters of Neptune, which rule oneness, interconnectedness of everything, God, the endless river. So also the mysteries of life into the new waters, right? Where the rock, you feel that it's so, you understand it, you get it. There's nothing that can surprise you about it. But the ocean, all you see is such a good metaphor. All you see is the surface, you know? Underneath, we know nothing. Damn, a metaphor. I never added that part to it, which is true. That the ocean is so mysterious and it really is similar to spirituality. Anyways, and just the spirit world in general. So yeah, so that's kind of that. Let me see one more thing. Also, yeah, just attracting very spiritually inclined partners and growing a lot through your relationships. Growing, yeah, growing spiritually and philosophically. And then also just like having the ability to see the beauty in your partners, which is the whole sign seventh house Venus, which is an incredible placement. All right. Yeah. So remember, Virgo to Pisces, if you're ever being too perfectionist, if you're ever being too worried, right? like of like there, I always say there's a million reasons why each day you could be worried or each day you can be in fear, right? Fuck it. It's literally about just Pisces. The energy is just like, I don't know how it's going to work out, but I just know it's going to be okay. But then sometimes they're too like that, right? And then Virgo, which is the opposite sign, so it's a balance of the two. There's the same energy but opposite manifestations. Virgo comes in and says, "All right, um, we are going to give you a step-by-step plan of how to get there because you can't just be all so dreamy, so daydreamy." Okay, I'm gonna say this. This is whole sign. Um, so Chiron, eighth house, and whole sign, it can be about something sexual, like I've seen sexual trauma there. I've seen feeling inadequate sexually there, or just like some kind of trauma sexually can be anything, right? It could be uh like an early experience that didn't go, it can be so many different things, right? But also I've seen it just this eighth house Chiron have nothing to do with sexuality, be where someone's just very sensitive to the undercurrents of the world and um has amazing healing powers, right? And even the Chiron in Cancer, even yeah, it's another placement that gives someone that intuitive understanding of how to care for their family later on. So yeah, I'd say like a big note of the chart. This reading also is to not retreat into the chart into the chart into the shell when hurt, and to really try to confront things, right? And I think having a partner like Annie is incredible for that, right? Because yeah, I think you in a way I think you kind of need someone whose awareness is high, right? I think that that's very, very important for you. Um, Lots of really, if you do have a job though, like really, really good energy for that. Venus and Jupiter in the sixth would give like amazing energy with the day-to-day work, with the day-to-day routine, with the diet, with the physical body, even good for mental health. Yeah. So, but yeah, on the same token with the mental health thing, Cat Moon is difficult. It's in my post on difficult mental health placements. Um, so anyways, let's pull some stars. See if there's any asteroids or fixed stars that are popping out if they're very, very close to any important points of your chart. Okay. Oh yeah, also Pallas and Aries. That is someone who, yeah, quick with ideas and grasping things and yeah, coming up with new kind of exciting ideas. Someone who can kind of, attack life like in um yeah, like a very heads-on way. Like Palace, I think of like, one strategy in battle, right? So just I think it's like it's very linked to like that part of the mind, that strategic part of the mind. So in Aries, I think it can make I have mine there too, right? I think it can make someone yeah, I think there can be some kind of quickness in that respect, right? Quickness to find the right strategy. Um And wait, where's the other one? I talked about Vesta, yeah. Juno, yeah. Palace, yeah. Series, yeah. Okay, good. All right. So far, nothing, which isn't a, not a good or bad thing, just neutral. Okay. Here's one. So you have a wealth star, Rigel, conjunct your Venus, which is money. So, I'll look up in a sec what that means, what they say. And then you have Sirius, another wealth star on your Mars. So, yeah, pretty cool stuff. Pretty cool stuff. And let's see with midheaven. Mm, mm, mm. Okay. Hard to find in true information about these, because they're all different. Like, you know, if it's with Venus at night, it's like this, Venus day, yeah. So these are just little cherries on top, right? All the asteroid stuff people post about on Instagram for the most part is just bullshit. Not important. Most of it, besides the important ones. Okay, so yeah, it says honors or favors in middle life, good influential marriage, especially a female. The native can receive high honors during this lifetime, perhaps in an unusual manner. Cool, cool, cool. Okay, and then we'll finish with the serious. Okay, here it is. So, because Mars, you never know. Like Mars, it can be difficult, right? So Mars, courageous, generous, military preferment, which I always take that as just like good for athletics. Work in connection with metals. It produces industrious natives, ambitious. And both of these talked about like potential for domestic problems, problems at home, which you had, in your chart with the Mars and the Chiron, but like overall, not projecting perfectionism or anything like that on the partners. But then there's also like really, really amazing energy. So I see it as a good thing. And then it says negatively problematic actions, even accusations, which is so similar to what I was talking about earlier with the Mars Neptune. So, anyways, so cool. So yeah, that is all. So, I tell most people watch this as many times as you need to. Uh, this is you get this done once, it's done for life. Um, and yeah, most people what they do, you have a follow up. I highly, highly, highly advise you to get the current astrology reading. I would do it for $250 because Annie's been such a good client. Usually it's like 300 and something. Um, so we have an hour together live on Zoom or WhatsApp. Um, but we can make it 3 hours if you add the current astrology. The difference is that this is just your natal chart. It's, never changes. It's just your, the blueprint of you in this lifetime, right? The current astrology, everything's always changing, right? Like if Pluto moves, to zero Aquarius, right? And let's say, I know you don't, but let's say your sun is at um zero Leo, right? You would have the transit called Pluto opposite, they say sun, opposite sun. Transit Pluto opposite sun. It doesn't last forever, but it's very, very important. we have so many of these transits, and there's also progressions. There's a lot of different tools that make it very understandable. So if you'd like to do that, let me know, and we can set up a date and time in the, you know, whenever, yeah, whenever, like in the, I'm not so booked these days. Kind of the same as usual, actually. But yeah, so I hope you enjoyed. I felt very, very good about this one, and I kept it under 2 fucking hours, thank God. Um, so yeah, let me know about that, and thank you, Annie. Thank you, my friend, and all right, ciao.